It's the Kyle Hyman Show on Redeemer Radio.
This is Kyle Hyman, and we've been talking about the Youth Synod happening over in Rome. It's supposed to be wrapping up here soon, and I thought we've talked about the Synod, but we should talk with some youth, some young adults about what that means. And so joining us is Nicole Rudolph, here to talk about her experience as a young adult. Thanks for being here, Nicole.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So before we kind of get into the youth and young adult, like what was your background growing up as far as being involved with the faith, being involved with the church?
I grew up Catholic. I'm the eldest of 6 kids, and my family moved around quite frequently. So I was a part of probably maybe like a dozen parishes growing up just because we moved so often.
Like moving within Fort Wayne or moving across the country?
Oh, Midwest, South, that sort of thing. Yeah,
so
but
completely new environments.
Yeah, completely new environments. So, but my family, like I said, we're raised Catholic. We would do like novenas together and celebrate feast days and liturgical seasons together.
And then did you ever get involved with a youth group, like kind of middle school, high school?
Yeah, the youth group that I was involved with the most was junior high for probably about 2 years in Lafayette, Indiana.
Oh, yeah.
St. Boniface Parish there with Father Tim Elkire. They had a very strong group of the Youth Knights of the Immaculata there, which Knights of the Immaculata is through Maximilian Kolbe. And I know a lot of youth programs will have like Life Teen or Y Disciple, but we didn't specifically had a program. It was just very organic. We met once a week with our youth minister and our pastor, and they really instilled in us just that Catholicism is something that you live and breathe in your everyday life. And we always walked away learning so much from those sessions.
So you'd say that was an effective youth program?
Yeah, it was very interpersonal, very much focused on fellowship. And after every meeting, the pastor would always close us with an adoration session. So it was very focused on Christ and that direction. Like,
how much
no matter
focus
what we
on
did.
pizza, though?
I think we were more of a popcorn group, honestly. I don't know.
And then how did that change then going from high school ministry to college? Was that a smooth transition? Were you able to kind of find a group in college, or was there kind of like this awkward transition trying to figure out, all right, how am I going to live out my faith in college?
I was super excited to go to a Catholic college. I went to University of St. Francis. And while I was there for a while, we didn't have a youth director. Not a youth director, but a campus ministry director, right? So a lot of students really were stepping up in leadership positions. I would say what differed the most for me within college and youth ministry was definitely when I was a teenager, I was involved, but I was kind of more of a bystander participant, I guess. But in college, it really was a place where I was encouraged to lead and be part of the community that way.
And you were studying theology?
Yeah, I studied theology, ministry, and philosophy.
Okay, so did you kind of feel like that was kind of ministry also, taking these classes that you're learning about ministry? Or do you see a difference between the academic and the actual ministry?
Some of a difference, some not so much. I would say ministry is more of it's theology obviously lived out.
Right.
And participated,
So what did you see as maybe some of the strengths and weaknesses, not specifically to University of St. Francis, but in college ministry in general, would you say?
I would say universally, there's a lot of strengths for college ministry right now. We have so many resources. Focus is huge. The Fellowship of Catholic University Students. I went to 2 of their conferences in college, one in Nashville and one in San Antonio.
Oh, yeah.
And they just have...
the one coming up is in Indianapolis.
Yeah, exactly. They have so many resources for college students to get involved. They have tons of just like, for instance, I was participating in a bunch of Bible studies. They have tons of Bible studies through Focus, and they have all that information online that anyone can just pull up their Focus-equipped information.
Yeah, because University of St. Francis isn't a Focus campus.
No, it's not a Focus
So you don't
campus,
have Focus missionaries there, but you could still use their resources.
Yeah.
So what would you say are some things that are lacking in the Catholic Church's outreach to college students?
I would say maybe in general consistency. There's a lot of good resources, but sometimes across the board, maybe it's not necessarily consistent. Because I know some places have Newman centers, and there's a lot of different organizations that help, like Focus, and also diocesan-wise, and with specific schools, sometimes I think are a little not as consistent as they could be.
So one of the interesting things that is happening here with this quote-unquote youth synod is whenever they classify this as from 16 to 35, you have such a wide range of ages, and then where those people are in life, whether it be high school, college, the workforce, single, married, with kids, without kids. There's such a variety. And then we throw this on a global scale, and now you've got all kinds of different cultural differences and economic differences and persecution versus freedom of religion in different places. So what has your experience been then going from the college campus where maybe, I don't know if you would consider it to be a little bit of a bubble that you're living in, to you graduate and now you don't have that campus ministry anymore, and you're looking for, all right, now how do I get involved with my parish? What parish do I attend? Things like that.
Yeah, definitely. Because in college, you spent, at least for me, we spent a lot of time building up the community that you have for 4 years.
Yeah.
And then just, you're stepping out of it now.
Right.
Okay. But then also you have to take into consideration there's not a waiting around to join the church. You are part of the church consistently. But there's definitely a huge, like you were saying, span of ages between there for the youth, and a lot of different needs. So if you have me, who I just graduated from college, and I'm considered youth, and then you have people who have kids,
right,
and they're raising a family and trying to figure out how to form a Catholic family within themselves.
And I feel like also this kind of young adult time, maybe because of the diversity, makes it really hard to have programming for young adults. And so a lot of our parishes don't really offer a whole lot specifically targeted to young adults. They'll have things that are just for anybody. They have things for youth. And then how does a young adult who's trying to figure things out, trying to discern life, how do they get plugged in there? Do you feel like there's nothing for me? There's nobody assigned at the parish to help me in my faith? Or have you found a lot of resources to help you grow?
I guess for me personally, a lot of that just, I'm not necessarily plugged into any programs at the moment, but a lot of it happens kind of organically. Like I have a group of solid Catholic friends who are early 20s, mid 20s. Some of us have kids. I personally don't, but we just have fellowship where we meet together, we all make a meal together, and we have fellowship that way. So I guess with young adult ministry and youth ministry, programs are great. And there's definitely some you can plug into. I know St. Vincent's has a Forsati group for young adults, for example. But then I think a lot of it is just kind of individual fellowship as well.
Yeah, so is that something that you sought out to find a group of people, or is it something that just happened?
I'm not from around here, so a good percentage of that group is people from college, and we've kind of stuck together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that helped kind of form the base of it.
Yeah.
We're talking with Nicole Rudolph about youth and young adult ministry and kind of the transition through these different phases of life. I had a friend who, he said, a relationship, I think this was just a theory that he came up with. I don't know, maybe he heard it from somebody else. But he said a relationship can't survive 2 degrees of separation. So this was his thing. He said, you're friends and you're both single, right? And then one of you gets married. Now that's 1 degree of separation. And you could still be friends. You can still get along. You still got a lot in common. You still got freedom of time and everything like that. But then once that person has kids, now they're married and have kids and you're single. Now that's 2 degrees of separation. Your lives are so different now that you actually can't have a friendship anymore. He's being a little extreme.
That is a little extreme.
But it does make it difficult for whenever you're talking about life and the struggles of life. The struggles of a single person are very different than the struggles of a married person with kids.
Exactly. And
so have you found
very
that
different needs, I
in
guess.
your groups, like trying to get together with all these a variety of people in different walks of life, that it's difficult to have ministry and to form community?
I know for ministry, sometimes that's difficult.
Yeah.
For instance, while I was in college, I was part of also in my home parish at the time, St. Paul of the Cross in Columbia City. Our young adult group consisted of like 18 to 35. And I was one of the two 18-year-olds, and everyone else had like a baby on their lap, right? Or like a 6-year-old or something.
Yeah.
So that definitely was slightly isolating for, I guess, an 18-year-old just to be like, I can't really relate to you guys.
Right.
But I would say now, I'm a little older now, but also now, for instance, friends I know who have kids with, like I said, kind of this organic group, a lot of times we'll go to them. Like we'll go to their house and they'll host and we'll bring food for them and that sort of thing. So
yeah.
I don't think it's necessarily as isolating as sometimes people make it out to be.
Right.
Yeah.
What is something that you wish existed? Either some kind of program, some kind of group, a conference or something like that you said, like, that would be awesome if we had this in our community.
Well, I guess this is something that I wish existed. It's going to exist, though.
Okay.
There's going to be a conference for young adults coming up in March, I think it is. It's an Azizi conference. It's hosted through University of St. Francis. And that's not specifically just for college-age students, because I know there's a lot of conferences for college-age students, but this will be for, I think it's 18 to 35. So that's coming up. Also, there's some ministries that do exist that aren't necessarily in Fort Wayne that I think would be cool if they did come to Fort Wayne, such as like ID 916, which is based out of Ann Arbor, Michigan. They have different chapters. It's from Renewal Ministries, and they focus on how can we get young people involved in the church after college. So how can we support them in their relationships, in their family? How can we help them get involved in parishes? That's their focus.
Yeah. Another thing, mentioning conferences, I know you're going to a conference at Notre Dame next week. It's the Higher Powers 2018 Fall Conference, November 1st through 3rd. I was looking up a little bit about it because you mentioned that you're going. I know Bishop Rhodes is going to be doing an All Saints Day Mass there on that November 1st at the Basilica of the Sacred Heart. People can find information at ethicscenter.nd.edu. It's not specifically a young adult conference. It's just a conference.
Yeah, it's an ethics conference.
Yeah. How did you find out about that and get involved?
I found out about that because my old professor at University of St. Francis reached out to me, Dr. Pearson, my philosophy professor there, and he was inviting current students and also alumni. So I know I'm one of the 3 or 4 alumni who are also going on the trip.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Nicole, and for sharing a little bit of your journey in young adult ministry.
Thanks so much for having me.